You hear about politics all the time, on the television, on news websites, through the radio. They're everywhere. But how long have they been there? Backtrack to the 2 World Wars, to the Civil War, to the Revolutionary War. What was the Revolutionary War? The Revolutionary War was a fight between 2 groups, one a fully fledged country, the other an unorganized group of colonists. Miraculously, the latter won and grew to become one of the most influential countries on the planet. But how did they get there? Politics. Because of politics, essays were written, newspapers published, votes were taken. America was a new country, ready to be shaped. America was shaped because of the politics. There were 2 main parties, the Federalist Party and the Democratic Republican Party. These 2 parties butted heads a lot. The Federalist Party's ideals were to split the government into separate parts so that each have separate powers. Essentially, they wanted a central government, a government to supervise the country. The Democratic Republicans Party's ideals were to not have a central party. Amendments to the Constitution were not something that they wanted. Pretty much, they wanted everything that the Federalists didn't want. Both parties strongly opposed each other. So, how did they get stuff done? Well, prior to these productive politics, the U.S. was a mess. Each colony was like its own country, with different governments from the next. Each one had their own army, and 9 out of 13 states had their own navy. There were French, Spanish, and European currency flying around. The Annapolis Convention became an idea. Delegates would come from every state. Problems like the separation of the states would be discussed and hopefully solved. But that didn't exactly happen. Only 5 of the states sent delegates. Despite this dreadful turnout, they remained persistent. The Philadelphia Convention became another idea. Alexander Hamilton was put in charge, and all of the states except Rhode Island attended. The delegates took 2 sides, the large and small states. The large states represented the Virginia Plan. The plan called for a government similar to the one we have today. However, the Virginia Plan called for 2 Congress houses based on population for its size. The large states, because they have more population people, would have more say in what's going on. The smaller states presented the New Jersey Plan. It, too, was similar to our current government, except that Congress only had 1 house. This house would be represented equally by the states. Each state had 1 representative, 1 vote, no matter the size. The 2 groups decided to compromise. The plan was that it would be a bicameral legislation, or a legislation with 2 houses. However, instead of having 2 houses represented by only population or size, or simply equally, there was 1 house of each. This is the government that you know today. The Senate has 2 representatives from each state. The House of Representatives has a certain number of representatives depending on the size of each state, the population. Both groups thought it was fair and continued on. While there were many, many other politics going on in the moment, before and after, creating the government was one of the most prominent aspects of the time. When you read your history books, you only read about the outcomes of the politics and not how the politics work. That's why you can go into even further depth and find out more about the Revolutionary War and, of course, other time periods. Go check it out.